Greetings, fellow Whovians, and welcome to Timey Wimey Review. And Happy New Year! I hope you're having a fantastic day. I hope that 2022 will be a lot better than, let's say, I don't know, the last 2 years. But we're not here to talk about that. Oh no, we are here to talk about the Doctor Who New Year's Day special, Eve of the Daleks, or as I like to call it, Groundhog Day of the Daleks, which is quite fitting because 50 years ago today, Day of the Daleks was first broadcast on BBC One. So please hit the subscribe button, and this is my spoiler talk / review of Eve of the Daleks. This video will contain spoilers for this episode. You have been warned. So we join the Doctor, Yaz and Dan as the Doctor is doing a hard reset of the TARDIS. It seems that they are caught in a time loop in a storage warehouse in Manchester, but they are not alone. There are also two occupants in that warehouse called Sarah and Nick, and of course the Doctor's deadliest enemies, the Daleks. So, after all the mystery surrounding the TARDIS in Doctor Who Flux, because it was clearly not working the way it should be, with the changing of the doors and just other things not quite going right in the console room, it looks like the Doctor needs to do some kind of hard reset. In that case, it sort of also started off a time loop, which also drags the Daleks involved because the Daleks detect this time loop, or at least detects the TARDIS. Not quite sure what happened there. And basically, they're tracking down the Doctor because they blame the Doctor for the destruction of most of the Dalek fleet because of the flux. The Doctor was saying, no, it wasn't me, it was the Sontaran stratagem, but the Daleks are, no, you're the problem, you are to blame, we are here to exterminate you. So this is a good point to talk about the Daleks, and Nicholas Briggs is great as always, and obviously the big new feature for these Daleks in this episode is that they've got machine gun fire weapons, which yeah, I kind of get why they did it because of this time loop. They were constantly exterminating Sarah, Nick, Doctor, Yaz, and Dan. So I think just having that single gun would have been really repetitive. But at the same time, from a sort of design element for this Dalek weaponry, wasn't a very good weapon, to be honest, because the machine gun was just scattering energy bolts everywhere, like a stormtrooper clearly can't aim at the enemies in Star Wars with their blasters. So it kind of reminded me a bit like that, just can't hit the target. But also, it just, I don't know, it just seemed like a really weak weapon. It took like several shots to exterminate a human, where normally it's just one shot done, one shot and done. But on the whole, the Daleks in this episode, I wouldn't say they're at their most scariest, which is a bit of a shame, considering some of the promotional shots that we saw before this episode aired. And they did look quite sort of scary in the lighting and the background in the storage unit. Kind of reminded me of Remembrance of the Daleks, with the Daleks in the school. That's kind of like, it's the stuff of nightmares, really. But in sort of how the episode was presented, like I said, they're not at their scariest. And some of the dialogue was very weird. Some of it made me laugh and chuckle, but some of it kind of took me out of the episode a bit. So some of the highlights of the lines was Daleks do not store stuff, okay, and Daleks do not have managers. I, yeah, it's. I'll go through the how I felt about the episode a little bit later in this review. But it's great to see the Daleks. I don't mind that they come back year in year out. But we still don't know the official reason why. We kind of know the unofficial reason, but whether that's, as far as I'm aware, it's not been certified that they have to be used every year because of the Terry Nation estate deal with the BBC. But it's always good to see the Daleks. I like the Daleks. Great stuff. We have two special guest stars in this episode. We have Ajani Salman, who plays Nick, and Azling B, who is a comedian and a writer, actress, and I think quite a few people in America would recognize her in This Way Up. And I recognised her through various sort of comedy panel shows like 8 out of 10 Cats or Cats Does Countdown. And she's quite a funny actress, a funny comedian as well. Out of the two, I felt that Asling B was the more stronger out of the two guest stars. No disrespect for Ajani, but I just felt that her character was a bit more interesting and just had a bit more to do than Nick. Um, and especially when the two were chatting to each other, Nick in this episode clearly fancies the pants off Sarah, and she doesn't really see it until obviously they're in this situation. And I felt that Asling really sort of carried off that kind of duo relationship, where I think Nick had to just Ajani just had to underplay it, and Asling was kind of the more showpiece out of the two. And I really liked her sparring against the Doctor and the other companions. And yeah, I can probably see maybe a few people got a bit tired of the character of Sarah. She was a bit sort of full on, very feisty. I did like it when she was calling Nick a bit of a stalker for storing all of his ex girlfriend's stuff in this warehouse and calling him a weirdo. So everyone was thought, "Well, that's a bit harsh," but I like this character on the whole. I thought it was quite fun just to add to this element of this episode. This episode, I had to say, had a lot of exposition heavy moments, and I felt that it was kind of on the shoulders of Mandip, John, and Jodie to carry off all the exposition for this episode, which does happen in Doctor Who. It's not like I've not just noticed this, but I just felt it was more noticeable in this episode, particularly for Jodie Whittaker. This is not really a standout Doctor moment for Jodie, really, in this episode. She is kind of just carrying the story along rather than sort of seeing some great moments with the Doctor. She does have him a few bits and bobs, and this is not a knock on Jodie at all. I felt like, especially from the Peter Capaldi era onwards, I kind of that's what I felt like the Doctor is. I don't feel like it's at times Doctor Who is the Doctor is front and center. It's more you're seeing it through the either the companion's perspective or the villain's perspective or sub character's perspective. Where really I just want to see it through the Doctor's perspective. I kind of want that a little bit more. But having said that, there was a really great moment between Dan and Yaz in this episode. So whilst the Doctor is going off fighting the Daleks, we have this moment between Dan and Yaz, and Dan. Well, basically, Yaz was saying to the Doctor, "Why do you always leave me?" You know, a bit more of the added shutting me out moments that we have seen between Yaz and the Doctor. So in this little heart-to-heart moment, Dan asks, "You like her, don't you? You really, you know." So Dan has opened up this romantic box. This, you know, we've been kind of seeing little bits of it through Doctor Who Flux, and obviously through the fans. There's been a lot of talk about this, and Dan is lifting up the lid of this box of romance, and I was quite intrigued. I think it kind of just it did kind of bring me round to this episode. So I really did like this moment, and especially Dan saying, "Look, I've waited too long before. I don't want you to do the same thing." And for me, this is kind of I really enjoying John Bishop in Doctor Who. Really enjoying him. He has his little comedic moments that we've seen today in this episode, especially taking on one of the Daleks. Definitely John Bishop is holding his own in Doctor Who. Really enjoying his character. Love to see more of him. I hope he's staying for quite some time. I'm going to give Eve of the Daleks a TARDIS rating of 6.5 out of 10. Now, I was entertained, but I did find this episode a bit too cheesy at times and a bit too exposition heavy. And I get that it was going for a more lighter tone to the story because it's New Year's Day. People have, obviously partied quite hard the night before, so you want something nice and easy to follow. But I just felt, me personally, it just went a bit too cheesy, a bit too light-hearted, especially when you have such iconic, scary villains like the Daleks. Now, for the most part, granted, Chris Chibnall has done some great jobs with the classic monsters. And for the Daleks here, like I said earlier, they're not at their scariest best. They served the story well for what was being told in the story. But I think again it could have been a little bit more scarier, maybe a little bit more a bit more hard hitting, a little bit less cheesy, a little bit less over romantic. But on the whole, I enjoyed the story. I was kind of expecting a bit more from this. The TARDIS sort of going a bit wrong, maybe dying. I mean, they could always bring this back. I don't know. Maybe it's this hard reset just didn't quite work. But from all the mystery, and that was the payoff, thought it was just a little bit weak. But what I did like about this story is obviously Dan opening up that romantic box and kind of him being that third person to see the Doctor and Yaz relationship. That is quite refreshing to see from a companion. Not really seen that before, so looking forward to seeing more of that. Really enjoying John Bishop's time on Doctor Who. Really hope they give more for Mandip Gill to do, because again, I just felt that they just gave a feeding line, especially in that big exposition of how they're going to get out of it. And I just felt clear that Chris Chibnall was like, well, I'm giving Yaz many lines, so she can say this, and oh, and Dan can say that, and Sarah can say that. That's what I felt from this episode. But what I do appreciate, and I could be a bit wrong here, but I felt that it was played in real time. So in this time loop, there was obviously the minutes were going away every time they hit a time loop. So when they hit the next one, there was 7 minutes in this time loop, and then six, then five, and so forth. And I did think I couldn't time it properly, but I might, I'll rewatch and see. But I'm pretty sure it might have played in real time. So I do appreciate that part of the story building and the story writing. However, exciting news, because we did get a little clip of what the next episode is going to be. I'm going to guess this is coming out in spring, probably around the Easter time, and it is Legends of the Sea Devils. That looked amazing. So from the shots that we saw, it looks like they were in China, I think in like either the 19th century, something like that. So that does look exciting. The Sea Devils look amazing. I thought that was some really good makeup and costume work there. I don't know if it was kind of like CGI with the eyes or something. I'm not quite sure, but very much looking forward to that. And credit where credit's due, Chris Chibnall does have a good track record with classic monsters. Let me know in the comments below your thoughts on Eve of the Daleks. Did you enjoy this episode? Are you looking forward to seeing what's happening in the next episode? We've only got 2 more episodes left throughout 2022 with Jodie Whittaker as the Doctor. So things are going to get ramped up real quick. I hope. But what was your favourite out of the New Year's Day Daleks trilogy? Was it Resolution, Revolution of the Daleks, or Eve of the Daleks? Please let me know in those comments. Next time on Timey Wimey Review, I'll be reviewing the recently released animated version of the first Doctor story, Galaxy 4. Until then, thank you very much for watching and supporting this channel as always. I hope you enjoyed this review. Please like the video, share the video, and subscribe to the channel. And as a good doctor once said, when I said that there's always a way out, there isn't.